Welcome to Brazos Matters. I'm Jay Sokol. My family and I had the great fortune to visit with friends in Switzerland not very long ago, and what we were reminded of was how almost everyone, at least in the area that we were in, had a garden. And not ornamental gardens, but ones that produced enough vegetables and fruits to feed the family and maybe multiple families. And it was amazing and it was wonderful, but it also required space. And I think that's what we imagine gardening and, of course, farming requiring here is space. Well, my guest today is taking a very different approach to all of this. It's a method that's gaining popularity around the world, vertical farming. Lisette Templin is an instructional assistant professor with Texas A&M's Department of Health and Kinesiology and one of the founders of TUFU. That is Texas A&M's Urban Farm United. Lisette, thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you, Jay. One of my favorite topics, food.
Let's do that. Well, I want you to start out by giving us an origin story about TUFU, how and why it even came about.
Yes. So the beauty of TUFU is it speaks to people who can say, I actually have a brown thumb and I can't grow anything.
That's me.
And that's actually me too. So I found the Tower Gardens about 10 years ago. And the message was anybody can grow their own food. And I was like, okay, this is a little bit skeptical.
Where'd you see this?
Friends who have worked with it.
Okay.
And I said, everybody, I wonder if everybody includes me because I killed everything. And it was very frustrating. But I says, nope, it's not for me. But, sometimes when your heart keeps tugging at you and it won't let go, and it's so annoying that if you don't actually respond to it, it gets more annoying. So I decided, okay, heart, I gotcha. So I said, all right, I'm going to see if I can be that anybody.
Okay.
And it was like, you get 3 months to try this out. And if it doesn't work, just send it all back. And so my husband actually bought it for me for Mother's Day.
So you're starting out at home?
I'm starting it at home.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
So I started at home. And it was growing food for the family of 5. And my tower had 28 ports. And it was growing. And of course, what I did was I said, okay, I want to start where it's really obvious, where if I make a mistake, it's not drastic. Mm-hmm. And none of the mistakes I made were drastic. Plants, if it died, okay, I forgot to take the pH balance, or I forgot to pull it in when it was so hot, or maybe warm the water a little bit during the really freezing months. So it was really just small problem solving that allowed me to actually connect with the plants, living plants. So it's communicating with me constantly. I need this. I need pH levels a little high, a little low. Maybe a little more sun, maybe a little less sun. And so these very simple, beautiful messages are giving me connections to the food that I eat.
So what were you growing?
I was starting with greens, lettuce, kale. Those are really obvious ones. Basil. Those are pretty much fail-proof.
Okay.
And then I got to fruiting crops like tomatoes and peppers and cucumbers. And those are a little bit more challenging for people who do have brown thumbs. But then in the end, it's all pretty doable. And that's the beauty of science, nature, and tenacity of the human heart to change.
So when did you translate what you were learning and experiencing at home to what's happening here on campus?
7 years.
Oh.
Yeah, I played. It was never a blip for me to bring it on campus. I grew it with one tower, and then I added another tower, and I was just growing for the family.
Okay.
It never occurred to me that I could do it commercially. And then the Aggie Green Fund sent out an email that says anybody who has a sustainable project, please share it with us and we might fund it. And I thought again, well, why not me? Anybody can do it. And I wanted to prove to myself and to the community that anybody can change the path of growing food for the community. And so I applied. It was a $70,000 grant. Plant pathology, Dr. Kevin Ong said, well, we have a greenhouse that's not being used. Give it a shot. And so with $70,000, we got the greenhouse. We bought 30 towers. It gave me a part-time position for one of the students. And we just started growing.
And what was the goal of the project? What were you trying to do?
The goal of the project was to give food to the 12th Can food pantry, which is now we're talking about food insecurity. Mm-hmm. And now that I've learned about the 12th Can and how much work they do for our campus, for our community, and how much food is needed by our graduate students, our international students, our staff that are barely making enough mm-hmm. to survive. The food pantry is a miracle on campus. And now we donate to it and it's fresh. And the Brazos County Food Pantry gives a lot to the 12th Can.
Right. But
we get to give them fresh greens.
Well, let's go back to what you've learned about food insecurity just right here on campus and surrounding campus. What do I not know about that?
So the 12 Cans, I don't know how long they've been around, but they are a very solid organization that opens their pantry twice a month, Wednesday and Thursdays. And they feed about 200 families. And the Brazos Food Bank will bring food that are canned and shelved to the pantry. And, the clientele has a lot to do with graduate students and international students, I believe.
Okay.
So, yes.
And what you're able to produce through TUFU from your vertical gardens is in addition, it gives fresh foods to combine with the canned and foods that have a longer shelf life, I guess.
Yes. And the students would come and harvest. And and the beauty of our food is the roots are intact. And so then you're talking about nutrient density and food as medicine. And now here's a whole nother topic, is food as medicine that actually heals the body and repairs the body and creates a thriving situation within the body versus the idea of consumption. We are actually nourishing the body.
Right. Well, so I'm bouncing sort of from topic to topic because I find things you're telling me very interesting. But in terms of comparing vertical farming, what you're doing there with traditional gardening or farming, tell me about light and soil requirements and water requirements, and how do we compare what you're doing versus what has been traditionally done?
Yes. So the traditional gardens, for me, and part of the reason that I failed as a gardener mm-hmm. is because there are too many variables, too many basic variables that I have to navigate when I'm a really busy mom and a busy professional. Mm-hmm. So this is where science and technology is helping communities so much, is that who are you addressing? You're addressing people who are saying, I'm too busy, I don't have time. So what do? They take the difficult variables out of the equation for us. And the major variable is nutrients in the soil. Nutrients for the towers. So the towers have nutrients that have been researched via Epcot and working with NASA to grow food up in space. And they are mined minerals, sustainably mined minerals that comes with these towers. And so the food variable for the plants are stabilized right off the bat. So you're not having to add to your soil, detract, or test your soil. A busy person can take that step out. The other component is watering. The watering cycles is set on a timer, 3 minutes on, 12 minutes off. And so if you can even go on vacation for 10 days and the towers will continue to just take care of itself.
Right.
So watering, soil are two of the major components in gardening that people overlook, but yet when they are involved in it, that's where they find the challenge. Oh, and weeding.
Is that even an issue with vertical farming?
No, that's not an issue with vertical farming.
Okay.
And I don't have to worry about animals like squirrels and that are feeding, and rabbits that are feeding from the ground.
Yeah. Okay, you're selling me on this as a brown thumb person. How much are you now producing through your vertical gardens on campus? How much food are you able to give? Maybe to dining services also? I don't know if that's a destination for some of your food, but what are your crop yields?
Well, we have a pretty good schedule now. We would give anywhere from 20 to 40 pounds to the food pantry every other week.
Okay.
And then I was working with Nam Cafe. So I want a huge shout out to Nam Cafe, Vietnamese food, super healthy. They were buying our lettuce weekly at 20 pounds a week.
That's a lot.
It's a lot, yeah. And then a huge shout out to Chef Kevin Lukey at the Hotel and Conference Center. They were willing to take our fruits and vegetables, and we were also giving them 20 pounds of greens a week, and then anything else that we're growing seasonally. So our greens are stable.
Okay.
Yes. So, what I was trying to show the community is that we have a food source, a way where we can bring community together that feeds the population right here, right now.
Yeah.
And grow local, serve local a thing here.
Do you intend to scale this up to where you're able to produce more and more and feed more and more people? Or are you the size you need to be and will stay that way?
Well, that's a really good question, Jay. So our project's been around for 5 years. And during that 5 years, I was honing into rhythm, timing, seasonal patterns, how to treat bugs in a compassionate and sustainable way. How do I connect with communities? So in the first 5 years, I've learned all of that right now.
Okay.
So do I want to scale it? I definitely want to scale it. But so phase 1 of this project is over for me as far as the learning curve. So we are into asking communities for help to say, here's the opportunity. What can we do with this? I have talked to the city of College Station, and I'm going to start this conversation again with them to see if they would like to take over part 2 of this project.
Well, what do you imagine that to be? What could that be in your mind?
That would be the city taking on the farm. I would coach them and train them, and then we coach one another until when someone really knows how to work the 30 towers, then we can get it bigger and then have a plan. Okay, how can we create a business plan for someone who might be interested? And then they grow for the local restaurants. And part of that, that would be to go back to the food pantry. So, it's a model of entrepreneurship plus care.
Right. Well, let me let me do this. Let me stop for just a moment and tell people that if you just tuned in, my name is Jay Sokol. You're listening to Brazos Matters, and my guest is Lisette Templin, and we're talking about Texas A&M's Urban Farm United, also known as TUFU. Is vertical farming like what you're talking about? You said you started out sort of dabbling in this at home. How easy is it for an average family to get into vertical farming? Is it too expensive for the average family, or is this really doable?
Well, okay. So I think it's very doable, except for you have to commit. It's not a magic beanstalk. It
Right.
does require, I'm going to say love.
Mm-hmm.
It requires that you learn how to seed, you learn how to transplant, you learn how to check water, check your pH level, and then you learn how to harvest. You can either harvest leaf by leaf or you can harvest the whole plant. But then you need to learn how to how do I cycle this again? So to me, it's so simple. For a family of 4, one person can do this 2 hours a week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's about how it takes, about 2 hours a week. And then you clean the tower maybe once every 8 weeks. And that'll take maybe an hour to clean.
Do you think this lends itself to community gardening or to these large apartment complexes or independent living facilities? Like, would it translate into an environment like any of those, do you think? Or
No, I don't think. I know.
okay.
But once again, it just takes one person who's willing to be the chef, be the grower, and have a heart for teaching others. That's really what it takes. The technology is there to support someone with that type of heart. And someone who needs to learn, who loves to touch, a tactile person, someone who likes to move their bodies, because that's what gardening requires you to do. But these systems are very amenable to people who might have issues with movements. You can even do this in a wheelchair. So we actually work with a program on campus called BGBG, which is Battleground to Breaking Grounds. And I teach veterans twice a year how to do this. So we usually have about 28 veterans who come through this program. It's AgriLife Extension, Battleground to Breaking Ground.
Okay.
And they come and they are veterans that are retired from the military, and they are very, very interested in agriculture. And talk about PTSD, solution for PTSD. Gardening is a huge solution for that.
Yeah, I would have to think it's very calming and gives a nice connection to nature, which I know you're all about the holistic nature of this whole thing. What do you see when you bring disabled veterans or any other group who may not have had a connection like this previously?
It's almost automatic. I do not have to do anything. Nature does the work. And the reason how nature works is that when you start gardening, you open all your senses. They actually tap you into your visual senses of colors and starting to see, okay, oh my gosh, it's not just green. It's the range of greens that your eyes are constantly picking up and processing through your brains. The tactile, there's like 8,000 different types of lettuce, and they all have different shapes, and they dance differently in the wind. Your whole body starts picking these up, and you touch it, and then you smell it, and then you taste it. And so all your senses are alive. That is the healing component that's not talked about. Because I'll have students, engineer students, come into my greenhouse, and all of a sudden, they're all having so much fun because all their senses are alive and there's nothing that's stressing them. They're totally honed in. It's absolutely beautiful to witness. And that's how communities can get started.
So you have some student support, correct, in these gardens?
Yes, we have. So the Howdy Farm has moved over. They were, they couldn't have their garden on West Campus anymore, so they moved to us.
Okay.
And so they do a lot of earth gardening outside. So they do a lot of carrots and potatoes and radish. So root vegetables, while we do what we're good at. So what happens is you find your sweet spots. Each growing technique has a sweet spot. So why not maximize it?
Right. I was wondering what kind of student takes interest in TUFU and vertical farming who I may not have suspected would take interest in that. Who are you reaching?
Well, I've had a lot of core guys, students come that I was not expecting to come, and they enjoy it very much. My engineers really enjoy it because it really takes them out of their headspace that they don't realize that they're in all the time. And they come and they actually feel like they're breathing, which is really amazing. I have a lot of nursing students who seems like a very natural path for them. Environmental type students come quite a bit. I have architectural design students, landscape design students who also come and they enjoy it very much.
I'll bet, and of course, you've put 3 kids through A&M, right?
We did, yes.
So I can imagine you really have a lot of intuition about the kind of stresses these students are carrying with them and how beneficial your environment can be to them. I bet that's a great service you're providing some of these students.
Well, so I'm going to jump topic a little bit about stress since you brought that up.
All right.
So I teach 2 courses here, meditation for stress and anxiety and meditation for leaders. And what I have found that stresses them so much is the disconnect that they have for their bodies and the disconnect that they have within such a large campus. So food actually connects us all. We all have to eat and we all have to breathe and we all have to move. And so gardening addresses all those issues and they connect very naturally to one another. And so connection is the key word in stress relief and getting out of our heads. That's huge. And in a university settings, that doesn't feel like it's allowed.
Right. I need to come take your class.
Yes,
That's what
please.
I think I need to do. Hey, tell me this. I know you and your family lived in Auburn for a little while.
Yes, we did.
And I saw where Auburn has a vertical farming and aquaponics operation on their campus. So they're able to provide vegetables and fish to some of their dining facilities. Do you have any idea if this concept is gaining traction at other campuses across the country?
Oh, it's gaining traction everywhere.
Is it?
Except for here.
Well, tell me about it.
We tried, and I don't want to say that that I don't have hope, because I have a lot of hope that it will catch on. But it has, from what my understanding now, it has to catch on from the grassroots level, right? It's not catching on at the academic level yet until we understand that we are the people that are making changes. We're not waiting for policies. It is going to take you and me and our neighbors and our friends and our children that demands it before it will catch on. We actually tried this with the Hotel and Conference Center. They really want to be a part of this. But I believe the complexity of moving things through systems really was not viable for them.
Yeah.
So, it's just going to take the grassroots community. And my hope for phase 2 of TUFU is, and I'm looking for phase 2 of TUFU as we speak. Mm-hmm. Can it be a co-op on campus where each person or each department would take ownership with 1 or 2 towers and come grow food for their department?
Oh, that's a great idea.
I think it is.
Yeah. No, I think you're onto something.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I like that. That sounds very hopeful and doable. So if anyone listening to us would even like to come by and see your operation and experience Texas A&M's Urban Farm United, can they do that?
Absolutely. We usually have volunteer hours. I'm there on Fridays from 9 to 11. And I will train and show anybody who wants to come. They just have to reach out to me at Lisette Templin at tamu.edu.
Okay, that sounds easy enough. And is there a place online that they can go and learn more about you? Or because what I did, I just went to the Texas A&M website and searched TUFU, and I was able to find a very cool video about you and a nice story. But is there any other place, or is that the place to
we
start?
are on Facebook as TUFU. I am not a social media whiz by any means, so that's my basic social media package is TUFU on Facebook.
Okay.
I'm trying to do Instagram.
That's good. That's a good place to be. Get some of your get your kids to help you with that.
I try, but they tend to be everywhere and sometimes nowhere.
Right. Well, this has been super interesting, and I appreciate you coming in and talking about it. And you and I have known each other casually for a long time, but we haven't been around each other a lot. Unfortunately, I've had to be around your husband. And I survived that.
Yes.
So please tell Kelly that get off the couch and do something to help out around the house, and that I said hello.
I sure will. He said to give you a hug.
Oh, that's great. Very unlike him. Lisette Templin, thank you so much for the talk.
Oh, my absolute appreciation for offering this time to me.
Absolutely. Brazos Matters is a production of Aggieland's Public Radio, 90.9 KAMU-FM, a member of Texas A&M University's Division of Marketing and Communications. Our show is engineered and edited by Matt Dittman. You can learn more about us. Check out all the Brazos Matters archives at kamu.tamu.edu.